Hello, Victoria here with Lead from Home and as an administrator of the Heritage Team Extraordinaire. So I am coming to you with this video to talk about this new class for VIPKid. As many of you all know, I teach online with the program VIPKid. And recently, I started getting requests for classes and actually scheduled for classes that had these random titles. And I had to think back, what in the world were these classes? Did I skip a training? Did I do something foolish and get certified for something, but not really pay that close attention to what I was getting into? What class am I talking about? I'm talking about the speaking class. VIPKid is offering a new class. It's kind of the grown-up version of Free Talk. Let's talk a little bit more about it. Why are we teaching it? What are the program goals? And who are our students? Two goals to keep in mind when you're teaching the speaking course. And that is, we're working on speaking skills, as always, and listening skills. So how do we do this? And how is the student going to increase their skills? All right, so by understanding words, phrases, or short sentences based on common topics in daily life. What does that sound like? It does sound like the Free Talk class that is already offered by VIPKid. The way that I see this is that it has different topics, different thematic elements that we are going to be focusing on, and our conversation is going to be really have a little bit more flexibility, all about pulling more information and dialogue from the student. So the second part of that was the speaking part. Speaking, how are we going to increase those speaking skills, or what is the goal and how the program is designed to meet that goal? So again, we go back to learning words, phrases, and short sentences, basically in a structured conversation. Again, what does that sound like? The Free Talk, right? It's just like Free Talk. We have the structured conversation, and it's about nearby objects and personal experiences. We're going to tie those items or those experiences into our conversation. Now, one of the tips, and I'll go over this in my tip video, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can hear these tips that are specific to the speaking class, but are actually universal, and you can use them to increase student engagement and decrease teacher talk time. More on that in just a moment. So as I mentioned, there's a couple of elements that are a little different than the Free Talk. I know it's a little bit of a comparison video, but I wanted to bring up that this is the first time I noticed that the student is selecting the topics. We know mom and dad are the ones who are paying for the course, but it was strongly encouraged that the students select the topic because it's a topic of interest and therefore encourages engagement and motivation to learn. Now, this class is offered to students from age 8 to 15. Yes, 8 to 15. That means that the students already have a more advanced level of foundational terms and vocabulary and can start conversations in English, right? The students being age 8 to 15 also are in the entry level into the program is level 3 to level 8. Now, many of the students, because they're allowed to select the topics that they want to explore, are encouraged to get a level that is the speaking class level that is equivalent to where they're at in their major course or major course curriculum. Whatever that is, it matches to the speaking course or below. Now, this is a good tip to consider because if the student is not quite there at conversational level, or we're spending a lot more time coaching and teaching in more of a foundational way, then maybe we can consider looking at speaking course equivalent. And as mentioned, it is a conversation-based approach, student-centered, conversation-based learning. There will be zero assess. Isn't that great? This is considered, or if you think about it, kind of an elective course. I've mentioned that the students are choosing the topics and that I was was thrown for a loop. What are these topics and why was I thinking or second guessing my participation in this program? I had something coded as DO, do level 3 dash whatever, right? What is do? It turns out, after looking at it, it's dining out. That's also similar to one of the free talk classes that we've already been comfortable and used to. And why do I keep mentioning that? Let me take a time out here and say, why do I keep making comparisons? Well, we teach our students to make comparisons to help organize their thoughts and observe patterns, and then kind of see what's different. And that's why I use free talk as a comparison, because if you're familiar with VIPKid and you've been teaching a while, you may have come across some of these topics in your free talk classrooms, and you might be familiar with the format and the approaches that we will be using in our speaking class. Some of the topics include pets, as mentioned, dining out, space exploration, life in the ocean, and campus life. So this isn't all inclusive. This is just a handful or a little sprinkle, if you will, of some of the topics that the students can choose. And each one of them has a few topics or themes that are associated with it at the level that's appropriate for the student. One of the biggest points that I saw that's pretty consistent throughout the review of the program, when I basically took a peek back into the course and the certification, what was the expectation for me as an instructor? What is it all about? And what should I be striving for? Well, one of the things that I noticed is that we're gearing our students or helping build their confidence within the language in the conversational skill in a more natural approach. So, for example, we're looking at expressive language and having a conversation like I am with all of you. We change our intonations, but not in the sense that we're engaging in instructing or coaching very specific skills in the public speaking class. This one's a little more subtle. It's more by demonstration. So one of the examples that I immediately thought of was something that I'm already doing with my older students or some of my more advanced lower level students that can pick up on context clues and make these connections. What am I talking about? One of the tips that they provide, VIPKid again, when I say they, I mean VIPKid and the curriculum designers, they offer that we introduce the topic with an interesting fact. Now, I'm a fact finder and I totally love deep diving into a topic. So if we're talking about extreme animals, I might find an extreme animal that's related in the course, in the curriculum, and I might pull an interesting fact that isn't illustrated in the story or some of the information that we'll learn later on in the class. I might pull that fact out and use it right at the beginning of the lesson and say, did you know? Or this is interesting, and find out where they're at. It's a good way to capture the attention of the student and get them interested right away in the conversation. It's also a natural approach because we're not reading anything and we're opening up the conversation. So I use that as an example of showing and demonstrating conversation skills. When we open up our conversations, we often think about something that is interesting. And think about the time that you had a conversation with your girlfriend or your friend, your boyfriend, your mom or dad. And one of the first things that you think of, or even when you're trying to hang up and waiting for that, it's always an idea pops in your mind and you say that aha moment. Oh, and guess what happened? Or, oh, and guess what? Did you know? Or I saw? We're making those connections to real life and using those transitional terms and phrases. Yes, that's what our goal is, to get that natural conversation across. And this is one of the reasons why I enjoy and I continue to teach in this VIPKid platform, because I love that experience when we have foundational learners that are starting to explore the language, and even though there may be minor issues, the idea that the context is still there, universal. I love it. Bridging those gaps and making that natural transition to conversational language. So another one of the goals that this course is hoping to achieve is to reduce teacher talk time. So asking those engaging questions. Now, if you would like some more tips on this, again, like and subscribe to this channel, because I have a series of tips and strategies that will help grab that in learners' engagement, their attention, and work on us reducing our teacher talk time and increasing the students' oral proficiency through language. And that's output, guys. It's output, student output. Let them practice those phrases and succeed, build their confidence. It's not just about vocabulary and learning specific sentences and sentence structures that teach us grammar proficiency and accuracy in our. This one is more natural approach. Again, like I said, we are still concerned with making those corrections as we converse, see them in practiced skill, but that's not our focus. Our focus is going to be on that conversational skill development. Now, if you're taking the quiz and you're considering certifying for this course, which I strongly encourage. If this is something that interests you and you'd like to try it, it is a different feel and it's different topics. That's always what I go for. If you're used to teaching specific classes, age group, levels, any new curriculum is just sprinkles for that ice cream, right? Okay, so this course is designed after or to meet certain goals. Again, I keep saying that we want to meet these goals. There's a purpose behind some of the strategies that we introduce and we measure in this course. And if you're taking the quiz, I started with that, right? If you're taking the quiz, just note that the VIPKid Speaking Course corresponds with the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages and Cambridge exams. So just so you know, you may need to adjust some of your conversation skills to meet the level of the student. Remember that our goal is to increase student output, so reduce teacher talk time. I will end this video with one final tip. One of the things that I know I do, I'm guilty. So I end up getting a little carried away with my free talk lessons and spend a lot of time in that natural conversation zone during our extensions. So this might be, again, introducing an interesting fact or sharing some anecdotal age and level appropriate story that makes connection. So I'm modeling that kind of communication in the free talk class. Now, in this course, we want to be able to cover all of the content and make sure that the student has practiced all of the skills that for that 25-minute course, right? So that they can meet those goals. One of the things that we can do is to limit our extensions to less than 2 minutes. So choose one thing. I know once we get started, it kind of goes on and on. But if you take just a moment to prepare when you're reviewing that class to say what it is that you want to get the student to meet, you can kind of gauge the pattern and the talk so that they can go with you on the conversation and meet those goals within the parameters of the course. Now, if all of what I just said is a little wordy, isn't really clear, don't forget to like and subscribe. I have a video coming that is going to outline exactly this strategy. So like and subscribe. And I hope that a lot of this information was helpful in deciding whether or not you want to teach the speaking class, or even to find out a little bit more about what these new courses what they entail, and a little bit more of just increasing engagement with the student. All right, as always, Thank you, and see you next time. Bye. Happy teaching.